I just bought a few things from my local Free Geek for somewhat cheap. I got myself a 3D printer for 50 bucks. I gotta find a place for it. I'm thinking of placing it over here, well, more specifically in this area right here. So I'm gonna move these monitors and whatnot out of the way. And I'm starting to think setting up my old AMD rig has actually been a good thing, because now I'll actually be able to use this for something. Now, when it comes to what this thing is doing, it's just been sitting asleep. And I haven't had any blue screens or anything like that, so I think for 3D printing, it should be more than enough. I'll probably want to swap this screen out because it may be a little bit too big, but I'm gonna move these out of the way first to see what happens, because if I can use this bigger screen, I want to use it. Next to the 3D printer is my Switch Lite. I also got for 50 bucks at my Free Geek again. Now, initially I bought this as a parts switch because in the testing I did, I was able to turn it on, charge it, and I was able to touch the screen and hear that it was active and alive. So at the time, I thought I'll just have to replace the screen on this thing. So after I bought it, I popped the back cover off and messed with some of the connectors on the motherboard and whatnot, and lo and behold, it actually works. Now, that said, there's some caveats. One, the controls, they sometimes forget to work. Like if I have this thing in the car and it vibrates too much, something gets loose and the actual controls will stop working. So what I have to do is I have to power the thing off, go to the connectors for the two thumbsticks and wiggle them around or pull them in and out of their socket. Do that a few times, power cycle will switch a few times until the controls start working, and then the controls start working. Maybe I need to completely replace the Joy-Cons because or the actual sticks, because it seems like the sticks are the actual cause of the controls not working. Luckily, when the controls die, I can still use the touchscreen, but if I actually want to play a game on this thing, which I don't have right now, I really can't do that. So I am going to eventually get some what are those, Hall effect sensors for this thing, but for the time being, I just want to use it because I actually finally got one that works. Now, the other caveat is the card reader. Now, I don't know if the card reader itself is busted or the cable is disconnected or loose. And since the controls on this thing are being so finicky, I'm not really going to pull this thing apart again unless it's absolutely necessary. And luckily, for the most part, all I really actually need to do is just just turn it off and like twist the body a little bit and then turn it back on. And that tends to bring back the controls. Again, I don't know what the actual cause of the issue of the controls freaking out like that is, but as you can see for right now, it is working. So with that said, I don't know what else I'll talk about in this video. Maybe I'll show where I have the 3D printer set up. Obviously, I got this thing for War Crimes of the Kingdom. I will be getting it, but I have to get some money in my account first for that. Alright, got the 3D printer set up, and I'm actually happy I decided to keep the table. I was originally planning on giving to Free Geek because I have a place for the computer, for the 3D printing, and the 3D printer itself. Now, if you watched any of my previous videos in the past when it came to my AMD systems, you'll know my hatred for AMD. But I'm actually happy I managed to get this thing back up and running again, because even though this is an AMD rig, it's my first Ryzen AMD rig, and the current configuration is my Ryzen 5 1600. I believe 8 gigs of RAM and my RX 580. In this configuration, this is the most stable this AMD system has ever been. And I know if I leave it as is, I'm not going to have any blue screens, I'm not going to have any issues, it's just going to work. And for a computer that's going to be doing more or less 3D printing and whatnot, I kind of think this thing is complete overkill, but I'd rather have it that way, because if I end up getting a more competent printer down the road, I want to have that power that this computer can give me. But then again, I don't know if you can actually get away with a potato computer to do 3D printing, but So with that said, I think one more thing is in order. I also bought War Crimes of the Kingdom. I think I would actually be giving Nintendo my money, but I want to play War Crimes of the Kingdom, so I had to give them the money, unfortunately.